Go ahead and get started. It is 7:35 on October the 17th of 2024. I'm glad so many of you are here. Can we go ahead and call this meeting to order? Would you please do the roll call?
Yes, I will. Am I prepared for that? Yes, I am. Okay, Ernest,
Here,
Wolfgang has let us know that it will not be here. Mary,
Here.
Catherine,
Here.
Dawn has also informed us that she will not be here. Suzanne is on her way. Jason will not be here. Heather
Here.
and Elizabeth.
Here.
all right, thank you. Just say condolences to Wolfgang for her travels to a family obligation, and hope everything is well with Jason and Dawn. Let us recite our mission. 1, 2, 3. Act as strong advocate to justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership and guidance in the area of civil rights. Thank you, that was good. For members of the public participating virtually, if you experience technical difficulties, you may call 434-970-3115. And a staff person will assist you. Again, members of the public participating virtually, if you experience technical difficulties, you may call 434-970-3115, and a staff member will assist you. Matters of the public. Do we have anyone in the audience or anyone online?
In person only for the first one,
Anyone in person? Yeah. So no one in person? All right. Moving on to regular meeting minutes, and we'll wait for Susan to roll on in. Roll in.
right? Hey, all.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks. I'm late.
We'll let you get your breath here for a second before we.
Good to go.
You good to go? All right. We'd like to approve the minutes of 9/19/2024 and 10/3/2024. So that was our 19th was the regular meeting, and the October 3rd was the work session. So do we do those together, or we do one and then the other? Let's do one and then the other. Okay, all right.
All right, no changes to those. I'm not hearing any proposed changes, so let's go with the roll call vote. Ernest.
Approved.
Great. Finding my fingers here. Okay. Wolfgang is not here. Moving on. Mary,
Approve.
Catherine,
Approve.
Suzanne,
Approve.
Heather,
Approve.
and Elizabeth.
Approve.
Okay.
Thank you. And for the minutes on October the 3rd,
Nice.
work session, approved.
Sorry, I was jumping the gun there.
It's okay.
Mary,
Approve.
Catherine,
Approve.
Suzanne,
Approve.
Heather,
Should I abstain because I was not present?
Yes.
They all look fine, but.
That's fine.
I
That's
think I'll
fine.
just
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
fine.
Okay.
cool, thanks. Elizabeth.
Approve.
All right. Chair updates. I don't know if anybody's been on Livable Seafield's website lately, or have seen anything that has been come across Facebook. But did see something on Livable Seaville about some of the community things that are happening with redevelopment news, with Crescent Hall having their work completed, Fifth Street, South First Street's moving along, that's been that demolition has happened and so they're waiting for permits to start the site work. Sixth Street, preparing for 47 homes to be built in that area. West Haven resident planners are finding partners for redesign. They made some headway from, I guess some things happened during West Haven Community Day. They got the information. And then the initiative for the parallel track initiative is making progress from Madison Avenue, Riverside, and Mitchell Drive. So it's a couple of things. And I saw something else that came across, but I did not get a chance to see it. So there's some things happening, housing wise, that I think that we should just keep our ears and eyes to the ground. Do you have anything that you have heard or do you can remember?
No, not
Okay.
recently.
Not recently, okay, all right. That's all I have, as far as that's concerned for chair updates. Moving on to the office staff.
There are some upcoming events in the agenda packet.
Okay.
Primarily, they are fall fests with Public Housing Association of Residents. The times I have listed are the formal times advertised for the events. Anecdotally, they usually end a little bit earlier, generally because it gets colder and we don't need to have kids outside in the cold, but let me know if you are able to come to any of those and I will keep you posted on the timing of them and whether they're ending early. I think that's all I have.
What is the fall, or is it, it's X Park, okay, not X Park, Pavilion. Are you guys set up a table for that tomorrow or?
The career exploration?
Yes,
Yes.
awesome. Cool. And the same for the Fall Fest? You
Yes.
guys have tables there?
Yes, all of the events in the chart are things I'm planning to table.
Awesome. Again, if you can attend or help out, with having a body there for people to put a face with those that are on the commission, please let Lily know. So she can, if there's any thing with payment or having to get you in a certain way, that type of thing, just let her know. So she can help you out, okay? So thank you, Lily, for doing that and manning those tables at those events. Todd?
We do have, thanks, Lily, and we do have one other tabling event. I'm gonna be doing it on the 24th, right here. We're gonna talk about the sort of, I guess, kind of like psychological impacts of dealing with climate change. Kind of a workshop on folks thinking about that stuff, and we were asked to table. So this is the sustainability office of the city doing a thing. I think Human Services is gonna be there. They asked us to be there, so sure. So I'll be there for that. It's at 5:30 on 24th of October, Thursday, so next Thursday.
There's also another one-stop shop on November 14th from 12 to 3. That did not make it into the packet, but is happening if anybody is available. I know that's in the middle of the day, so it's a bit harder, but
One-stop shop.
yes, that's a city, or like a Charlottesville area event organized by the Fountain Fund that sort of consolidates resources for people re-entering from jail or prison. They're usually good events. We have a lot of traffic at them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What time is that one? I know it says middle of the day.
12 to 3 on Thursday, November 14th.
Thank you. So what day of the week is that? Thursday, so Thursday.
So the big Saturday and weekend events have slowed down, unfortunately, which that gets exhausting. So thanks for doing all those, Lily. On my end, we are still, well, just a reminder, we've submitted our amended ordinance to HUD. I've been not pestering yet, but I will. I'm gonna give it till November and then I'll send an email and say, hey, verdict on that. So crossing fingers that they don't have a bunch of things to change on it again. I think we did a pretty thorough job this time, so that's still in the works. Other big things I wanted to bring up, if we scroll down to our active complaints. Reminding you that case 2020-2. Put a big case file in your agenda packet. Remember, no alarm. You didn't have to read this. There's no quiz, none of that.
It's quite the read, though.
Lily found a few things that we needed to fix in it and she did that. So, credit where credit's due. Thank you for that. That thing is big and
That thing is big.
I'm thinking about maybe during this little update, Ernest, kind of, you can let me know what you want to do with that. I want to just kind of point out where things are in there that you should focus on and how the things laid out, so you know what to read first and then what else is for reference. So
That would be helpful.
holding that thought for a moment, also knowing that, we have to think about public hearing. And so maybe before I go looking at the case file, I'd like to just go to the work plan for a second. And so I might ask Lily, if you don't mind, if you can pull up the work plan and we'll throw it up there, because I don't know why I didn't think of this, but I don't know why we're gonna train y'all to do a public hearing before you voted on whether or not to hold the public hearing, especially because we're training in an old system that you'll never use again. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me at the time, but you know,
Listen to me too, but I was trying to roll with it.
you see, Ernest, you can call me on that stuff. Like, what is he doing?
That's what I was asking. We were talking about this before. I was like, oh, okay,
Why are we doing this out of order? I don't know. I don't know why I did this out of order. But however, I think one of the reasons was because I was thinking about what we use work sessions for and what we use regular meetings for.
Yeah.
And Lily also helped me think about this again, credit where credit's due. But the thought was that we vote on things in regular meetings. We like train on stuff in work sessions. And we can't vote on stuff per our rules and procedures in work sessions. So what I'm proposing is, you're gonna pull that up, I'm gonna pull it up too. What I'm proposing is kind of a little workaround. And this is kind of, if you initiate this, I'm making a suggestion, you can decide whether or not to follow my recommendation. We should call our next work session a special meeting, for two reasons. One, we have a lot to talk about with regard to our policy recommendation letter still, and we may not finish it tonight. So we may want to tweak it some more, and I talked a little bit offline with Suzanne, Ernest, and Wolfgang on that on email. So we may want to work on that a little bit more, so we could vote on that and vote on whether or not to hold a public hearing at what would normally be the November work session. Let's call it a special meeting so we can hold a vote, because we used special meeting before to vote on the, what do you call it? Ordinance.
yes,
Thanks.
yeah, we did.
So I'm getting a little ruly here, but just for fun, just so we can make sure that no one questions whether we could have voted on something. Okay, make sense? So I think it says in the rules and procedures, you can call a special session. So if you say there's a special session on November
Just
7th,
so.
yes, what do we call it? Special meeting? Special meeting. For all the words, special meeting. Yeah, then we can.
Well, give me the words.
Special meeting may be called by the chair, the vice chair, in the absence of the chair, or by any two members upon written request to the secretary. Written request.
So do I need to write a written request to you?
Yeah, you could send me an email right now and I'll be like, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we should amend that piece in the bylaws. Or you could call it in a meeting, but yeah, so I think we should probably do that. If that makes sense to everyone. Makes sense? Okay. Thanks. So we'll switch those things up. We won't prepare for the public hearing on 11/7. We will vote on whether to hold a public hearing before we prepare for said public hearing. And there you go.
But if we do get a training, it would be on 11/21?
Well, so that's the question. Are you cool with using the regular meeting to do that training work?
You don't have a
Fine with
choice,
me,
because
but-
all we did with timelines?
Yeah, well, the other thing you can do is you could train at the work session on 12/5. Which is also possible on December 5th.
Yeah, because we have timelines that when we get started with this, correct?
Yeah, if we scroll down just a hair, and this is a proposed timeline because we haven't served notice because we don't know if we're gonna hold a public hearing. We said potential public hearing on 1/16. That means you train the month before.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable. If you guys are planning on, if you're, thinking ahead to holiday
Yeah,
stuff,
as long as we have time.
you feeling like we'll be around for the 12/5 work session?
Yeah, the 12/5 work session
Yeah.
is better for me than
It,
the
it'd be different if it
21st.
was 12/25.
Yeah, the 12/25 work session's not happening, so.
So.
Yeah, let's maybe put a note on there. That's what we'll do, and I gotta confirm with city attorney on that one, just to make sure they're gonna be around, cause I want them to be around, I have a little bit of a draft, do have a draft, kind of layout for how this thing could go, I wanna review that with them anyway, so. Good,
We could send around like I don't know what you usually do, like a when to meet, because
yeah.
I mean, I just said, oh, the 5th is better than the 21st, but November 21st, but really I could do the 21st online. I just can't do it in person. So maybe, I don't know what other people are gonna be doing around the holidays.
I think 25 is probably better.
You think 12/5 as well?
Okay. I also kind of like just, from a ruling perspective, like sticking it on a work session seems pretty nice, so,
All right,
okay,
sounds good.
thanks. Great, okay,
Email sent.
thanks. Validated, affirmed, I don't know, yes, special meeting, it is. Maybe I should probably put that in a email. Informal you all. All right, it's a farmer, always a farmer. We can talk about the case file a little bit. Are you good with that?
Yeah, tell us what we need to make sure we are paying attention to.
Thanks.
Yep.
Our technical expert, here. We'll pull it up for us. This was a heck of an agenda pack. I think those of you who have your personal emails on the commission group email, like all the Gmails were like, nope, when I sent that thing. So it's in your city email if you didn't get the personal email this time, so
You
apologize.
should be able to still use the public link, which would not require you to.
Indeed.
I did. It
Also-
forwarded to my Gmail and I was able to do everything.
Great.
So it's fine.
Great. Okay. So, investigative report, so. Thank you for this. Okay, so it is redacted, okay, so you don't get to know name of the complainant, name of the respondent, name of witnesses. I think we caught everything,
Yeah, I read it today. I feel like it was all gone.
it's pretty much gone. We went even further in, like removing the address of the place in question, all the things, so. It's a big report, but if. Oh, yeah. Here, while she's doing that, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna scroll down.
I'll scroll for it.
I was gonna go sit in your
What
chair
page?
for a sec. How about we head to the table of content? Oh, no, we don't need to. Well, yeah, go to the table of contents, that's easier.
This?
No, further down. We're gonna talk about this thing that she's scrolling past, but. Golly, that thing was long, okay. There, that thing, okay, so. What's important here, okay. The thing that is gonna be most important for you to read is in tab. Where is it? Oh, it's the thing before all this, I'm sorry. So it's not even on the table of contents, but, oh, that's okay, you didn't have to scroll away. So the investigative report, I haven't read this in a little bit. Investigative report was that first thing that she scrolled past. Okay, that is basically a summary of what is the issue that was investigated? What are all the elements that we're looking at in terms of trying to determine whether there was discrimination? and a summary of the evidence as we understand it, as relates to the complaint. Okay, so that piece is what you wanna read.
Okay.
You come down to here and you can find references, those little A1, A2, and et cetera, E. All that stuff is gonna be referenced in that investigative report, so some fact will be stated, there'll be a little reference behind it. You can go look at that in detail to see, where did he get this thing from? That's what all this is. So I wanna show you this big list because you don't have to go through and read all that stuff. It is a good idea to like take a look at what's in the investigative report and you feel like, let me just understand that a little bit better, scroll to the thing that it is in and look at that individually. That's a good idea. And in fact, you may wanna have like, save a copy of this thing, so you have two, so you can scroll to one while you're not having to move the other one, just a pro tip, but. That's really what I'm suggesting that you do, is read the investigative report, ask us questions about it,
Can we send those by email?
send the questions by email.
Okay.
Yeah. That is it, really. And then I think that the other thing to read, if you can scroll down past this thing to. You might want to use the little, no, you don't get it on here. You have to look, you don't get the little sidebar window thing. Down to the bottom where it's like attachment. Let me tell you, it's the post-investigative documents.
What tab is that?
This tab 11.
370, page 377.
370, I'll help you with that.
Attachment 11, yes, thank you, Heather.
Okay.
Yeah, attachment 11, thank you. Yeah, tab 11, attachment 11. Okay. These, I would suggest that you read in full. Okay, this, so you get our investigative report. That is a summary of the facts, right? That is not a decision as to what the facts mean, right? And we sent that off to both parties because they're entitled to a copy of it. They requested it. And we got not only did we get the representation letter, so they have an attorney, okay? The respondent has an attorney. We got their representation letter. We also got a rebuttal from them. Like, ha, we disagree with all this stuff, okay? All right. But that was prior to having rendered a finding on this. Now, because I did the investigation and then all the people changed in the city, and there was no director by the time I finished this. And it was really hard to determine who wanted to render a finding on this. What I got from city management and city attorney's offices, let's contract this out. So we contracted out an independent administrative law judge to review the investigative report and render a finding. So that independent case review and determination is the finding on the case. So it's a finding of no probable cause in the primary issue raised in the complaint. But, and this is what's interesting about this, and you'll see this in the response from the respondent's attorney. The administrative law judge did render a finding of probable cause. Remember, this is probable cause, because that's the old ordinance language, not now a reasonable cause. Probable cause on retaliation. Based on the action of the respondent. Respondent's counsel didn't like that. They're like, no, you can't render findings on stuff that wasn't the original complaint. And I was like, broad interpretation of the ordinance says that the commission still can consider that whether or not to hold a public hearing on that finding, if they think it best serves the spirit of the ordinance. I sent that in a letter, they didn't respond to that, but that's my response to them. And so that's where that brings us to the present. So I won't read that stuff because you can see that how that sort of transpired and how it gets us to the present moment where you are holding a public hearing on that not on the finding of no probable cause for the original issue, but on the finding of probable cause for retaliation. Okay. So that's what you are thinking about when you read this case. And you are deciding on whether or not you want to hold a public hearing using the old procedure from the 2013 ordinance, which I think, did we drop the 2013 ordinance in the last set of minutes or last set of agenda packet? I can't remember. If you want to read the 2013 ordinance, it is on the website.
It's on the website, yeah. We
I think that's probably what we decided. That's where it was.
Yeah.
That's when we looked at it. It's on the website. I'm crafting an agenda around that procedure. It's 2-439.1. That's the section that talks about enforcement and how you do public hearing.
It's what again? Sorry?
I'll probably say it wrong.
You said 2-439.1?
Point one, I believe, is the commission's role in the enforcement of or the enforcement of individual complaints. Gosh, I got it right. Enforcement authority, the role of the commission, 2-439.1. 2013 ordinance, the old one, the original, okay? So you can get a sense of what, it's like a lot of the stuff that we amended in the new ordinance and struck out, that's all in there still. So all the cross-examination and presentation of new evidence, testimony, all that stuff's in there, so,
Can I ask a question, Todd?
yeah.
One of the final pages in here, literally, second to last page is a letter from you.
Yeah,
And it says that the people who brought forth this concern originally
yeah,
are not interested in mediation
yes,
regarding the finding of probable cause for
Yeah.
retaliation. So my question, and I know it's, but my question is, based on what you're saying, my understanding is even if the complainants are not interested in continuing to move forward with this because the respondents do not agree, that is why we would hold a hearing?
no, it's completely your prerogative whether or not to hold a hearing on an issue in which there was a finding of reasonable cause. You don't have to,
No, but
yeah.
is the reason that this one is coming to us, and others are not,
Hmm.
is because if the attorneys had not come back to you, if they'd been like, because this is not totally tied up and other issues are tied up?
Yeah, so the reason you haven't had,
Excuse me.
maybe I wanna reframe your thoughts, and if I did it correct. The reason you haven't seen other cases come to you for a vote on public hearing
Right,
is because they haven't gotten to this stage.
okay.
Most cases, if you look at that little case summary in the report,
Mhm.
most things go into alternative dispute resolution. So either informal dialogue or mediation. We haven't done a conciliation case. Conciliation has a very specific meaning with regard to housing, so you kind of reserve that term. They're all conciliatory efforts, but yeah. So most of our cases go there.
And then they're resolved.
And then they're resolved. This one went into mediation. It went through a full investigation. At the time, Ashley said, I'm gonna send a letter that recommends that they go to mediation. I'm
Yep.
not rendering a finding, but I'm gonna send them a letter that says, go to mediation. They went to mediation.
It was not
They reached
resolved.
impasse.
Yep,
And so then they said, render a finding on this thing. And so we had to figure out how to render a finding on it, given the like complexity of we haven't investigated it.
you rendered a finding.
I didn't, Judge
Oh,
Currington
sorry.
did, but yes, a finding was rendered by a third party. And then back it comes, and so the only other step, if complainant said, I don't wanna go back to mediation.
Right,
You have to have both parties willing to mediate or nothing. So that sort of nicked that. And so the only other thing that can be done with this case is to vote on whether or not to hold a public hearing. And then based on the vote, you either hold a public hearing or you say, nope, we're not holding a public hearing.
and is the complainant interested in coming back? Do they want to, like it says they don't want to, they're not interested in mediation,
Mhm.
but are they interested in relitigating it? Like, my impression is that it's it's the respondents who are not happy with the outcome.
True.
Okay,
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
okay,
There is also, I think, an interest in just addressing it and seeing what comes of it, on both sides.
okay,
The challenge is under this ordinance in housing cases.
yep,
You can hold a public hearing, but what you do you can say, okay, we disagree with the finding and we don't think there's probable cause for retaliation. And then if you do that, I suppose that complainant might be entitled to appeal that. But if you uphold the finding, it's like, yep, we agree. We recommend that the city attorney consider civil action on behalf of the complainant. They don't have to do that under this ordinance. The city attorney would be like, not touching it, don't know what to do with that one. So there's not really any, you can't award punitive damages, you can't issue an injunctive order, you can't do anything like that.
Force
So-
an apology.
You can't force an apology, you can recommend that you should apologize. They don't have to. If you uphold it, if you don't hold a public hearing, or if you uphold it and you don't have any other recommendations, complainant still reserves the right to file private civil action. So, as I understand it, based on federal and state law, clock is told when they file with us until our administrative process is complete, and it's complete once you guys either vote to not hold a public hearing or vote to hold it and then issue your finding. It's complete at that point, and I serve notice on both parties and say case is closed. Finding of retaliation holds or doesn't.
Okay.
That, at that point, the clock starts again, and there's, yeah, I have to look it up again, I don't wanna do it off the top of my head, but,
There's no type
complainant has
of,
some time.
there's no type of checklist for us to think through. To hold a public hearing, that these things should be present, like, we just all have to read through and,
Yeah, there's no, yeah, you don't have to decide. In order to vote on whether or not to hold a public hearing, you don't have to decide on the merits of the facts at this point. I mean, it's helpful.
Right.
Cause if you think, wow, that's really messed up, like, I wanna overturn that thing. Then maybe, but really it's about like, do you think that the ordinance is best served by holding a public hearing here?
okay,
That's what I would say, and
Okay.
ultimately is like. Maybe consider what outcomes,
okay.
yeah, that you can anticipate if you do hold a public hearing or don't.
Thank you.
That make sense?
Yes, I was just trying
A
to
little
figure
bit.
out, how to size it in my head of,
Yeah,
like, I'm like, this is an interesting case, but like, so I appreciate the,
yeah,
within the ordinance. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think. Neither party, you know, it's not really their prerogative to say like, I don't want a public hearing, but neither of them have expressed that they don't. That they're opposed to a public hearing either, so I think they're curious to see where this goes, as am I, to be honest, because this is new for us, and let's just be frank about that. We have not done one of these before, and we're doing it under the most complicated set of rules that we've ever had. Is the old rules, and so, kind of interesting, but also, yeah, something to really think about, like, is the ordinance best served? Is justice best served perhaps
Right.
by doing that, so.
and are there, never mind, okay, that's helpful.
So, all the names are redacted in this version. If it was a public hearing, would it be open to the public with names?
This is a great question. So, and we've been kind of wrestling with this. I know when we did the most recent ordinance revisions, I was like, what is the precedent for that? We have this like confidentiality clause in the ordinance that says we're not going to disclose stuff. State law is kind of,
You have a public hearing,
but it's a public hearing. And so like, if you go to like the State Fair Housing Board, they use names. And parties show up and they identify them by name. It's sort of like we protect confidentiality up to the point that we can't. If both parties show up on Zoom, or they both show up here, meh, and they start using their names, then it's done like that, but it's kind of they're in the driver's seat at that point of disclosure. I'm trying to protect that, up until the point that we can't. Yeah. But at that point, they're present, and so disclosure can happen at their consent. Is kind of my view on it.
Sort of.
Yeah, please.
I mean, they could not show up. You're right.
They
On the
couldn't.
other hand,
Yeah,
if one party shows up and one party doesn't, right?
right.
So it's not like given consent in a way, but
Yeah, that's also true. That's also true. I guess what I'm thinking about is we're obligated to protect confidentiality as much as we can based on our ordinance and state law. The other two parties don't really have that same obligation, I suppose. They're engaged in our process, but they're not they're not the city body and they're not staff. So I'm trying to make sure that we're
No,
doing our
I
thing.
understand why you're doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
but it's still,
It's still kind of messy. And if we ever revise the ordinance in the future, you know, again, in consultation with city attorney's office, we may say like, at the point at which it goes to public hearing, redaction is no more, this goes out there. However, I still think that there's maybe some redaction that should take place to protect witnesses. Because there's still possibility of retaliation, things like that, like complainant, respondent, maybe we disclose, but other information that's not necessary. Yeah, maybe we keep redacted. So it's nuance that we haven't gotten through yet, but so we're erring toward the side of caution at this point.
So.
Yeah.
We're gonna meet on the 7th of November.
7th of November.
Do we dig into that then of the public hearing and what that means? Or do we dig into this now?
You can do. That's a good question. You can dig into it then. You can dig into it then. That's when you're gonna vote, right? So in the meantime, you can ask questions, think about it. I think it. Yeah, there's two things there, right? There's the. Generally, what does this mean to hold a public hearing? And then there's the, what does it mean to hold the public hearing on this case?
Yes,
Yeah.
and my concern is this something that we are gonna come, once we do this, are we expected to have some type of outcome? And will that be it for this case, or will it continue?
It is it for this case. The only pending question I have is what happens if you all overturn a ruling of probable cause in a hearing? Can the complainant appeal that overturning?
And does that bring up another public hearing for us?
Potentially, if it's an appeal, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's another thing to think about. That's an unknown.
Mhm.
Haven't gotten through the first one yet. But yeah. Yeah, and I would say also, since we're on the topic, I just did my first determination as director. I've never done one before. Public, there you go. I'm just open about that, right? So as in my role as director, I had to render a finding on a case that Shael investigated. Go Shael, good work. That hasn't been disclosed yet. That's still under review by the city attorney's office, but it's gonna get disclosed soon.
Okay.
So there could be another public hearing as a result of that.
Okay.
That was filed under the new ordinance, I believe.
Oh, jeez.
So that's easier in some ways,
Okay.
because that's a review of record process.
Okay.
Okay. Pretty sure that that's the case. Is that the case? Or is it, it's in the previous. So it still has the same rules. It has the twenty
training.
22 ordinance rules. What's that?
our training would have a little more.
So your training would be useful if
Yeah.
we end up doing that, so,
Okay.
yeah, anyway. That's a lot. Questions now, so I think, yeah. Read the thing,
Read the thing.
I think. Ponder the meaning of doing it and how is the ordinance best served, how is justice best served? Come prepared with any questions. At the special meeting, send me any questions in the interim that I may be able to answer over email. And then be prepared to vote on whether or not to hold public hearing on the 7th of November, not holding the hearing on the 17th, we're just voting on whether to hold the public hearing. Yeah,
The ordinance is the public hearing? What is the?
the ordinance
Give me
has,
clarity on the ordinance that we are.
Is the big question, like in terms of serving the ordinance, are we gonna back up an interpretation of the ordinance that a retaliation that was not part of an original complaint process is still actually in the purview of the ordinance? Is that like, that's the big question?
I think, not really.
Okay.
That's a procedural question. That's an interpretation of the ordinance question, which I passed through the city, I passed my response, number 5, through the city attorney's office, like, this is my take of this. What do you think? And they're like, "Meh, go ahead, send that off."
And the judge also, I mean, that was the judge's finding, is that there could be
Yes.
like that the retaliation was relevant even though it wasn't part of the original complaint.
Judge felt that that it was appropriate to bring that up in their review of the case and determination, yeah.
Okay.
And then they sent it to us. We contracted with them, so it wasn't. You know, it's not, we don't go back to them and say, well, what is your interpretation of the ordinance? Like, this is what we contracted you to do.
Right.
Now it's like, okay. We accept that, you know, under our interpretation of the ordinance, that additional issue. Could be reviewed by the commission. There didn't seem to be a compelling reason why to say, nah, because that, if there's an issue found in the evidence that. That wasn't brought up by the complainant in the original complaint. It seems like that's the best service of the ordinance and the spirit of like what's protected to address that rather than to be like, meh, you didn't raise it, so no, even though the evidence points that might be the case that happened. So
Okay, so that you would say that's a more procedural
As a
question? And then
procedural
what's the-
question.
What's the serving?
and so what
what's
you're
serving the ordinance, like what's the big question?
you're holding
there?
a public hearing on that finding to say, yes, we agree, no, we don't agree with that. And then we think this should happen as a result of that finding. As a result of our either agreement that that was a valid finding or as our disagreement that that was not a valid finding. And so that's where I say to you, you know, look at what powers you actually have, which are limited, right? Under this version of the ordinance in housing cases. And decide whether or not you can do anything meaningful with that. You know, what would meaningfulness look like? I don't know, like. It gives people the chance to air their points in public. Maybe that's a good service. It gives you the chance to weigh in and say, we agree or we don't agree. Maybe that's a good service. Gives you the chance to say, we recommend that maybe you do these things. But you can't award anything. You can't stop anything. You can't order anything. Yeah.
And is it the case that one of the parties has a lawyer and the other party is arguably more vulnerable, right? And one party is interested in fighting and the other party is less interested in fighting?
That's, yeah, I don't know if I can,
Or, I mean, obviously, we can't see inside their.
yeah,
their
yeah.
brains, But like, one
You
of
got
them
it, you
has
got it.
more, I mean, you know, more,
Yes, one party has representation.
representation.
The complainant had representation. Whether or not that same representation will be present at the public hearing is to be determined. I think if we say commission has voted to hold a public hearing, are you going to bring counsel with you? That is a question. Yeah.
So if we decide to hold a hearing
Mhm.
for a complainant who is not asking for a hearing, we are
That's-
potentially asking the complainant to spend money for counsel.
So unless they find pro bono counsel, which. Yeah, they did previously, so. Yeah. Yeah. You had a thought. We're not asking them to. They don't have to have counsel.
Well, obviously they
Right, but
don't have
always your
to,
vulnerability.
but
It's,
yeah.
so here's the thing. They don't have, yeah, Lily, something's on the tip of your tongue.
I think it's maybe important to clarify that I don't think that this is a situation, and I don't know if a situation would be possible in which or the commission is voting to hold a public hearing that the complainant does not want. Can you speak to that? Like, it's not a matter of the complainant saying, I don't want this.
Yeah,
The commission is then voting to do it anyway.
But they're not asking.
they haven't necessarily asked for it. I could look at email correspondence. They're not opposed to it, I'd say. I could look back and I don't
Alright,
want to misspeak and say, oh yeah, they're totally into it or totally opposed to it. I didn't get the impression that they were like, we don't want this to happen, but it's, I mean, you could take that into consideration when trying to decide whether, I think if somebody was vehemently opposed to this, because they're like, this is traumatic for me, I really don't want to do this. And I would share that with you. What I've shared with you, I haven't shared their correspondence with you because it doesn't seem like it would influence your decision per se. They're not opposed to it. They're kind of, yeah.
Okay.
If anything, and I don't want to misspeak, but I do think that you're like, sure, let's do this kind of a thing. which isn't like, yeah, I'm really wanting this. It's, you know, they're not opposed. Okay, let's move forward. Respondent has expressed, yeah, clearly that they want it.
Right, the hearing is in response to the respondent wanting us to,
Mm-mm.
no, it's not, it's, I mean, the respondent is challenging the judge's.
Yeah, hearing, I gave you their responses
Right.
because I wanted you to see what their position on the finding was. And then they tagged on, like, we think that this should go to the commission. They don't get to decide.
Right,
You
but-
get to decide and the process gets to decide. If there's a finding of reasonable cause under this ordinance, oh, sorry, probable cause under this ordinance, the next move is for you all to vote on whether or not to hold a public hearing. It's your choice.
And this is probable
Yeah,
cause
which-
of retaliation.
Probable cause of retaliation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's that, but it's one party has a problem with, the party that was believed to retaliate is the one that had the problem with the judge's decision.
True.
Yes.
So that's, so what you're gonna read in there is that they're gonna vehemently defend their position. If they, so they're gonna bring legal counsel and they're gonna defend their position. Our job, I think, is to create as equitable a process. If the other party doesn't bring counsel, our job is to create an equitable process there. And again, like you can watch, you know, the attorney is gonna do their thing, right? They're gonna try to defend their client's position, and so they're gonna pull all their attorney tricks, right? Your job is to try to see through that and try to create an equitable process and make a decision, right? And read the evidence. They may try to introduce new stuff. There's not really, to be honest, I investigated it, there's really very little more that you could dig up on this thing. I'd be so, you know, I could think of a few things that if you could really dig and get some stuff, that would be a thing I would bring up, but like, whatever. They may have some other things that they're gonna bring up that I haven't thought of.
Okay.
You get to decide whether it's compelling or not. Yeah, and it's gonna be time constrained. That's the other piece I should say is that I've proposed like an agenda kind of outlining the process that's in here. Time constraining stuff. So like you can present evidence, you can present evidence, you can do an opening, you can do an opening, but it's timed. It's like, no, you don't get an hour to like bring everything under the sun. Yeah. Yeah,
Any other questions for Todd?
speaking of time constraints.
Yeah, a lot of them, but we'll do it later.
Do you have any questions about the case? Anything, that we need to bring up, email that to Todd, so we will have as much information as we need when we meet on the 7th.
Should we send those to you directly or to the whole commission? Just you?
Send it to the whole commission, that's
Yeah,
fine.
it's just in case others are asking the same
Okay, yeah.
thing.
Okay.
So that we don't repeat.
It may, stir up some other questions from commissioners about the case.
And just to want to say thank you for being on this journey with me, because this is kind of scary, kind of interesting, but this is the work. So thanks.
Is this what we do?
This is what we do, yeah.
Any more questions for Todd?
Long staff report.
Yes, so do we have other things to do tonight? You do.
Need a break?
Yeah, I do.
You can take a break.
City policy recommendation, so thank you, to Susan and, to Murray for starting those, and that is on attachment number 6 is one, and then this is, what is the other attachment? Attachment number 7. Any questions or anything about on Number 6, the letter to council.
Do you mean the draft?
Yes, the draft, yes.
So a couple of things to note in here, I'm actually in I'm actually making changes right now, but when Todd flagged that I did not have the correct Charlottesville Human Rights Ordinance, that's because I was being lazy and I was just trying to get the other content in there, but I think I have the correct stuff in there. One of the things that I think is helpful, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the document you're looking at, but I think it's pretty close to what you're looking at. Although we are going to have a separate effective right to counsel letter. I don't know if any of you all were looking at the comments, et cetera, but Wolfgang called out a piece in terms of like, it makes sense that we might have 3 versus 2, even just from a format perspective. And then they added some additional language in here. And so we just say we'll be following up with a letter that further underscores our support. The last piece that I want us to take some time to talk about, and Todd, this might be a place where I appreciate what you shared with me with regards to the homelessness services outreach coordinator position. And I might get this wrong, but I think it was our collective understanding that there was already something in the budget that would be utilized for BRAC. And that is not the case. It was another position. And so we want to I'd love to spend a couple of minutes if we have time, just taking, or I can even play with this while we're talking. And also one of the other things that Todd mentioned was we get, which this makes a ton of sense, we get into a bit of a tricky situation when we are making recommendations for the city to fund something that is not a city position, but is in fact a position for another organization. Do you want to say more? Or where am I? Yeah.
I
Is
can
that-
try, yeah.
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 So we're gonna want to revisit this paragraph
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready, I can talk.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, so, and I remember last meeting, I think I volunteered and Elizabeth volunteered to follow up with Shayla, like, Shayla, what are your thoughts on outreach? Cause you talked about outreach. I think she brought it up at when she was a panelist here, and then I think Elizabeth and I go to a lot of the CES and CCR meetings and service provider meetings for homelessness, and so this has been on the discussion table for a long time that BRAC's looking to do more outreach, which is cool, right? Like that's something they determined that seems important. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I know that there's funding for something regarding homelessness within the city, right? And my task was to ask Ashley and follow, like, what was that? And where is that? And is that still exist? So it is still in the budget. And so here's how I understand it. So that was put in the budget by former city manager Michael Rogers in response to, we got to do something about homelessness, right? Okay, so under Ashley's purview, right, under the Office of Social Equity, they said, okay, it needs to be like I think it was a homelessness services coordinator, something like that. I probably still got it wrong. But that was the proposed position. And when I was like, okay, so the money's still in the budget. Yeah, the money's still in the budget, but that's not an outreach position. And so that is the thing to think about. And it was intended to create a position within the city, not a pot of money that could be RFP'd, so to speak, out into the public for nonprofits to apply for. So that's where I was like, oh, so that's why it's not so easy just to be like, okay, city council, that money that you have, like, throw that at an agency that's saying who they want to do outreach. Okay, fair.
Yeah.
So one of the thoughts I was having about this is that, okay, that I understand that, so that's a new, and as we start to get into city policy recommendations, which we haven't really done in the past, except for right to council. I don't think we have we? I think this is the first time we've really like made a concerted effort, like after we do legislative recommendations, let's do city policy recommendations. So one of the things I was thinking about, like, what is maybe a more, let's say, functional way to advocate for use of the city money to do the thing that we want to do. And so the pots of money that are available to community organizations to apply for are things like the Vibrant Communities Fund. This other thing that I just learned about called the Housing Operations and Program Support Fund, which is some grant, things I need to learn about, but there are pots of money that are available out there. And what happens, they put those out as available for applications, to the public. And then city staff who are on whatever committee that makes the decision about how those funds get allocated have to overlay some criteria, like what are the things that we're gonna fund this year? And so what I think maybe a better strategy for now and maybe in the future is to say, hey, council, what we think is an important use of the funds that are available to agencies out in the community is this stuff, right? Right to council, for example, or effective right to council, because right to council is a little bit different, right? Homelessness outreach. We think that when you put these things out there for funding, prioritize those kinds of requests, or even put out there that you're looking for people to do that work. Because what you see as a need in the community, that's the strategy that I was like, maybe we can switch it around to do that and actually be more successful than saying, take money that exists in a city budget for a city position and put it out there.
I wasn't putting it out there, I just want them to hire the person.
Right,
I-
it also.
That's another thing.
A little, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, please.
Because I thought this began when Shayla, right, said the city has had this position in its
Correct.
budget and
Yeah.
it has not hired that
Correct.
position.
Got it.
And then I think maybe we got confused and said, oh no, this organization is hiring. And we conflated those two. But the original
Yeah.
request that we were supporting was monies in the budget. Let's fill that position so that we
Yes.
can have more focus.
Yes.
That's
Right?
cool. That's cool. too.
That's where.
That's how I remember
That's
the.
that's
yeah.
where I was going.
That might have been my intervention that caused that confusion.
You just
It's
confuse
okay.
everything.
I
know.
hate to so sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
and
it's
we're exploring these, and part of that is, there is confusion, because we know that BRAC was considering, and we
Yeah,
did
they're
this.
hiring
They're
yeah.
trying to do it,
And Brack is trying to hire for that position.
a homelessness outreach specialist.
yeah.
Oh,
So Brack
Do
is
they
trying to
have the
hire,
funding?
Brack is trying to hire someone for their organization for that position.
Yeah, they have funding, but I think it's like through the RFP process, so it like would be temporary funding that needs to be re-engaged every year.
So Brack is asking the city for funding for that position.
not get that.
You know,
Like through the RFP
Yeah.
process
Right.
is what.
So,
has
but
been-
you found out from Ashley that that position is in the budget.
A position.
A position.
A different kind of position, though.
but one that is
Well,
about coordinating homeless services. It's just not in
Bingo.
outreach.
That's
Correct.
right,
And
that's
that
right,
would have the city engaged and
Correct.
focused and
Yes.
doing work.
that's right.
That's what I want.
Yes, good catch.
That's
yeah.
what,
Yeah.
that's what.
So that's, wanted to make the distinction there, because we typically put in here, homeless services outreach coordinator position. I think what we need to do is be more specific as to,
Whatever the name of that position is.
yeah,
Can we say?
the position that's in funding.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
position that's in the funding that hire the person.
I mean, it could be city personnel focused on homelessness services, like we don't have
Yeah.
to say a
And we can
title,
be more
right?
vague and say like, we understand that there is, funding in the budget for some city human to do something with regard to homelessness. We recommend that that be prioritized, and if it needs to be retooled
Yeah.
to meet the need that is currently present in the community based on the data and the information that we have, go forth, but don't lose sight of the need for some more action around this, because we're not currently meeting the need. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a simple retool. It's just like, how do we frame this such that they get what you're after?
As long as Ashley says it's in the budget.
I mean, my only concern is we don't actually know the backstory.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Why has that position not been
Correct.
funded? And perhaps there's a very good and equity promoting reason that it hasn't been, you know what I mean? Yeah, it just makes me a little nervous.
Well, and here's the thing, yeah,
I'm not nervous. I want to know if the position, if there's a possibility for that position and we need that position,
yeah,
then I say, let's go for it, and then they can deal with that as far as why it's not, why no one has been put in that position, what have you,
yeah.
is where I'm at
Yeah.
for that. But, so what are you thinking? What are you thinking?
I don't know. And I mean, it could be that HR process is very bogged down in the city, so it hasn't happened, right? It could be that there's some plan in the works and they're holding this money because they're going to do, I don't know what they're.
So my thinking.
Well, do we know
is-
if they are holding the money every time they don't hire someone? Like every
Right.
year they don't hire
Well,
someone,
you
that money is
confirm
still
that the
getting,
money is
you
still
know,
there.
I confirm that with
accumulated?
Right, so I would love to
It's-
hear from the city.
Yeah.
Like I said in my email back, is I would like to know what's going on with that position.
Yeah.
And that why isn't someone being hired for that position?
And
And
so,
if it's
yeah,
HR bogged down, if it's, you can't find a person, that type of thing.
They
then
haven't.
it's-
They haven't posted it,
Advertising,
right? It's
right,
never been
right.
posted,
Yeah.
so it's not that they haven't found
It's-
someone.
Right, so it's there, then why haven't you hired someone for that position? Homelessness, it's going on and people are talking about it and it's not getting any better. So if you have an opportunity there for funding, then why are you holding up and not funding it? What's going on?
and so that, I think that's a good ask as well, like,
That's what I want.
part of it is, like, I can only speak to a little bit of it, cause I don't know all the inner mechanisms, but I do know that like the city's position on homelessness. So again, that was put in the budget by, during Michael Rogers' term, right? Different council then too, but it stayed in there, it hasn't gotten taken out, and so there, I think, this is just me postulating. When I see them moving around trying to decide like how to best address homelessness in the city, because I know they're thinking about it, because they're talking about it. But I don't think they have finalized like what is our best move. And so this piece on the chessboard is sitting there along with some other pieces, and they're trying to figure out which one to move next. And I think that maybe, I hear what Catherine's saying is like, if you don't know what the other pieces on the chessboard are, it's hard to advocate for the movement of one pawn, right? So if you want to know that, you also have a voice,
Right.
not just with city policy recommendations. You can also be like, hey,
Well,
we
I'm-
know about this,
well-
but we don't know very much about this. Can you tell us
Well,
more?
Right, well, I'm that guy
Yeah.
that has the chessboard and I put it down and I need the directions to, you probably wanna move right here.
Yeah,
So that's what I wanna know is.
Yeah.
If you move here, then you probably wanna move here. I need to know that,
yeah.
we're not hiring for this position because we're doing this and this.
Well, and so what you
That's
can
what I
do.
Would like to know.
So maybe you don't even have this on your recommendations. I mean, it's an important issue, but what I'm hearing is maybe we need to know more before you
Nope.
can recommend.
Nope.
No? Okay,
Nope. If it's budgeted
yeah,
in the budget,
yeah,
then I would propose that you hire that position. That someone is hired in that position, and if it cannot be hired, I would like to know why.
yeah. Or my question, if I had a question about it, would be like, when this was created 2 years ago, you had a different vision for what the need
You
was.
got a different council.
Do you think that there's a different vision now? And is that why you're not hiring? And does that need to be retooled?
Then tell me that.
That's the question, yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, cause I know there's a lot of stuff going on,
Mhm,
housing wise.
mhm.
Different ways of trying to figure out how to handle homelessness.
Yeah,
Here's an opportunity for you.
yeah,
Why isn't this position being used?
that's fair. I think articulating that in the letter, like, we want something to be, what I'm hearing is, we want something to be done with this money that's been earmarked, because something needs to be done.
Not
If
just
it's-
something,
Yeah,
not just something to be done, but you have a position for a person
mhm,
to do, something, I mean, there's money there
Yeah.
for a person, staff person, whoever that you may hire to be an advocate for homelessness,
Mhm.
and it's not being used.
Yeah.
I just wanna know why.
Cool.
And if it's not being used, what are you waiting for? Or is it gonna be put somewhere else that is dealing with or pertaining to the same thing?
So,
That's it.
so what I'm wondering then is that for your purposes of your letter, are you putting those questions in or are you putting
No.
what you wanted? Yeah.
The position is there,
Mm-hmm.
the position is there. Let's see, what we got?
Can I
Yes.
just add perhaps a complicating factor?
Yes.
So in Shayla's letter, now that I'm reading it, I think I didn't read it well, the first time. But so what she's saying is she is in the final stages of getting an outside grant for one of the roles.
Mhm.
And she wants a second role that she's hoping could be funded by this earmarked funding.
Mm.
So she's saying, she says, I'm hoping to supplement that with the city's funds as well. So BRAC can have 2 outreach workers for at least 1 year. To my knowledge, the city earmarked 67,000 in Ashley Reynolds Marshall's annual department/DEI budget, but it's just sitting untapped for some reason. I'm not sure what I need to do to get the funds, but I've spoken with Sam and Ashley twice over the past few months to request it. So it does seem like those funds could be connected to the role that she is the roles that she's
Then
trying to
release
create
the
through RAC.
money.
Yeah,
Let
so,
her help
so-
somebody, that's all
so,
I'm saying.
yeah, I think there's a way we can kind of tie that together in our language of saying, please release these funds.
So,
That
And
have
it's a
been
big deal,
earmarked.
so they basically have a matching fund kind of
yes,
situation,
Yeah.
right, with
Yes.
this other
that's
organization.
all,
Mhm.
yeah, that's it, that's all.
And does that make sense, like how to word that then? Like, I don't know if we need to make some changes, maybe we,
Okay, so how is it being worded right?
I have,
I see you.
I'm in it. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm in it right now.
you're in
I
it.
see you.
This
This
is a
is,
little different
Is
from
it
what she's
number 3?
asking for, unless.
we recommend that the city continue to fully and continue from.
Oh, yeah, to continue fully,
Yeah.
fully
Provide
fund.
supports for
Sorry.
homeless, for the homeless, additionally, we recommend.
What if we ask that they take this earmarked fund? That they spend this on something related to homelessness.
Yes.
And that they report to
And
us. then.
report to us what it is and strongly consider the request from BRAC.
Yes,
Is
yes.
the city, I just have an informational question. Is the city allowed to say, okay, we have the $60,000, we earmarked, we don't have someone we want to hire, but we're gonna pay for hotel rooms for all of these people? Like, do they have the ability to just pay for the
Yeah.
service instead of paying
Yeah.
a person to
Budget, yeah.
coordinate the services that may or may not
That's,
exist?
I guess
Like-
it's up to Ashley to release that.
Right, that's why I was saying, I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure we should just say you must hire someone.
Right,
Because you haven't, right?
Tell them they don't have
What the
that.
plan is for this money
Yeah,
and
what-
that you're
what's the
supposed to
plan
be
if
using
it's-
to benefit.
Yes.
Homeless folk, you're correct, that's where I'm at. Yes.
But I do think the homelessness outreach worker would be a good use of those funds.
I'm not arguing against that,
As
I just
compared to
think,
say hotel rooms, because
Yeah.
the one thing is
Mhm.
kind of something that can address, kind of remediate, not remediate, but address what's happening and be a caseworker to help folks who are
Mhm.
maybe out of homelessness or connect them with services. Whereas the hotel room is just this
Stop that.
very temporary
Yeah,
and
yeah.
expensive Band-Aid
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is,
it's-
2 weeks or 5 days at the most is what the city offers currently, so.
Okay.
It's, for the people that get it, it's a great
Mhm.
respite, but it's so temporary that
Yeah.
it doesn't have any systemic effect.
Okay.
But I hear what you're saying, Catherine, just they may have other plans. They may have thought of stuff, so we should give them room for sure too.
I mean, I just want to give Ashley some grace that she's
Mhm.
probably
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
just
Yeah,
I-
absolutely.
not thinking about
I
it,
agree,
right?
I
That
agree.
she, yeah.
Mhm.
I agree.
I agree with that.
so many moving parts right now, and I think that's why it's probably getting kicked around and not acted upon.
And who knows, maybe it's being held because maybe they're like, we're trying to launch this full-time shelter by the spring.
Yeah.
Right,
And
I
we
mean,
might
that's
need
what
that
I'm-
money.
yeah.
I think that's very possible. Yeah.
It'll be nice to know.
Mhm.
I think it's anything that can help encourage folk that things are moving
Yeah,
is a positive.
I agree.
That's all. I mean, so especially right now with, it's getting colder, you know, and, you know, it's getting darker sooner. And we haven't got to the time change yet. And so, you know, this is a time where, you know, people are, you know, it's tough. So, you know, so anything that we can find out that you can do to give anybody some hope of, if I can get through this, make it to, you know, there's something at the end of the other side. So that's all. I'm looking at this. You know, just can we find out something?
For homework, I would ask that everybody come back into the letter when you have a chance and look at particularly number 3. We recommend city continue to fully, oh my gosh. Sorry. Fully fund city-run programs that provide supports to the homeless. Additionally, we understand that there's currently funding earmarked in the city's budget focused on homelessness, and we would urge the city to spend those monies in a strategic manner that positively impacts homelessness. Be that a homelessness outreach role or something else that is really moving the needle for our unhoused population in the city.
Can we
That's
bring,
great.
can we bring up Ron? Can we bring up Shayla's program? Or leave it out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we could say like via BRAC or otherwise.
Right, okay. All
I
right,
don't know.
okay.
That's too.
I just kept it homelessness out.
Yes, yeah, I agree, yeah, I just, okay, I agree. I just want to ask that, okay?
And I looked it up again, the position that is funded is just a one-word difference. It's homelessness services coordinator. It's just not the outreach part.
Homelessness. Be that a homelessness services coordinator.
Mhm.
Maybe we could say coordinator or a homeless outreach advocate through BRAC.
Mhm.
So that way,
Homelessness
Outreach.
Coordinator. Through BRAC. BRA,
I think it's HC,
is it HC?
CH, yeah.
CH, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like,
All right, is everybody good with that?
yes.
Thanks for the active editing. That's
Yes,
appreciated.
thank you.
And thanks for tolerating my difficult explanation as to why
It's helpful.
we should think about it again, so.
Do we need to take out number 2? Since we're doing.
No, we
Okay.
decided to put in number 2.
I thought we were doing a separate level.
We are
Right.
gonna do a separate letter, but we just say, but we also just want to
Okay.
kind of nod to that, and quite frankly, like, I know this sounds weird, but from a format perspective, it suddenly becomes weird if we're like, here are just 2 things that we are
Okay,
sending your way. So it is duplicative, but
no problem,
rolling with it.
just ask. No problem.
Yep.
All right. If everybody can look at that, or get a chance to look at that, and so we can try to get that to them
What's our time frame on that? Like
on this letter or the right to counsel.
either, I mean, if you want us to look at it, I just wanna,
All right,
No.
so when do they meet again?
When does council meet again?
Yes, and how soon, I know, I don't know. That's
Like,
what-
think on
I didn't know if they met this week or not.
Yeah,
That's
they
all.
did. They did
met-
on Monday,
okay,
next Monday.
That's all I was asking. I didn't know if they met this week or not.
And you all are gonna meet again on the 7th, and so you can like adopt the letter. Or you
When
can
is the, when did we say we would have these to them?
We didn't make a firm, because we talked about adopting it tonight, but realizing that we probably needed more discussion, that's why I said like, you could adopt it on the 7th and
Let's do,
send it off.
let's adopt it on the 7th.
Really, we don't need to vote on these.
You don't have to vote it, I mean, it's just like,
I,
if you
I'm
wanna discuss it.
willing to
Go.
give all the power to Ernest.
I just
to
When
make-
it feels it's ready, you can go, yeah.
Well, I wanna make sure that everybody has had an opportunity to look at it and, make sure it's, sounds and looks decent before we
Yeah.
put it on letterhead and send it out. That's all.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I don't. I love the power of we and not just I, because I know I will get myself in trouble. Yes. Just tell me, why can't you tell me? All right, so we'll finish that up. Is there anything else we need to touch on for the other? Right,
I
counsel.
just want to thank Mary for drafting it, and also I want to say that I deleted some spaces, but I know that you're a lawyer and lawyers double space a lot, so I hope that.
Oh, right.
I actually have given up on the 2 spaces.
Okay, yeah,
But,
there were
um,
some that were 1 space and some that were 2, so. I
Yeah,
just
that's
was like,
because
not
you're-
printing it,
You're supposed to get rid of the 2 spaces, but
It's okay. So I
it's
just wanna
deeply
say
ingrained
sorry
in
that
my
I-
body.
I should.
Yeah,
I
it'll be a
should have
long
done
time
it
to
without
get rid of
thinking.
that, yeah.
Actually, I'm just gonna go through and accept that.
Feel free to get rid of all the spaces in the world.
And so the only thing I wanted to say is, do we want like to end with a more specific ask?
Yeah, I had
That's-
sort of I hadn't envisioned it as a full letter, so I just, yeah, so
Oh,
I think
okay.
it could use like an introduction and
Okay,
an ask.
Okay,
you know.
I could take a stab at
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to.
All right.
I
Yeah,
just didn't.
I just
wanna-
thought it was gonna be like a part of a longer letter,
Right,
so I
so
didn't
it was
include
gonna
all that
be-
stuff, so if
Okay.
it's a separate letter, we
We had
can.
originally talked about just
Yeah.
including it in this one letter.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to say.
Okay, I'll take a stab at that, and please, no one, I expect, your edits, so.
Okay.
Thanks. We'll add spaces.
Don't do
All right,
that.
spaces. Oh, God.
No, please, I have like a little copy editing thing, so, you know, do not be putting an N dash where you want an M dash, or I'll just like freak out.
All right. Any other questions on that? So yes, thank you, Mary. And thank you, Susan, for your editing and stuff. Appreciate that. All right. What is next? Next is,
Oh, work plan.
nope, Form Officer Nomination Committee.
Oh, no, that's right.
So we have, we need to, anybody would like to be on the nominating committee?
Sorry, I need to go back and read the. What's our timing again?
We do. Work plan, I gotta look at the work plan, so.
I'm happy to be on the nomination committee. It'll be my last task.
Oh, yeah, we do nominations, on 12/19.
Mhm.
Might be out of town, but yeah, yep, okay.
So we need a committee, so you wanna do that together?
Sure.
Walking out,
Let's do it.
all right,
The 2 of you?
yeah.
That should be the new rule. If you're leaving, you get to do that, it's automatic.
Anybody else wanna join, or just the two? I think just the two.
That's good. Then we don't have to.
Yeah, yeah. No stress on anybody else. All right. We will be reaching out to commissioners to find out if anybody would like to take the role of president and vice, or chair and vice chair. Any questions? Cool. All right, moving on. Work plan check-in. Can you put it up, please, Lily?
Yes.
Thank you. We got that confirmation, so. You'll have to look at D, because you already confirmed that we will be meeting on 11/7. All right,
To
so,
the top? So, yeah, so we figured out the scheduling stuff. Awesome, thanks. So, Lily helped me remember some things. I just giving you credit. We had mentioned a few other things that we might want to do as focus areas, and I forgot to bring those up when we talked about the work plan last time.
Are those are red?
Those things in red,
Okay,
because we talked about them in the annual meeting.
okay.
And then I know, like, at least we did some work on the Ally Safe Space training stuff a little early on.
But we never got really back to getting that training.
Yeah, and I can tell you that internally we've worked with the Women's Initiative.
Okay.
And they have a really good trainer there. We did it with our staff and it was awesome. They actually customized the training just for our team.
Good.
I didn't know. And I know that city management is in contact with Women's Initiative to talk a little bit more about that. No, maybe not. Okay, fair enough.
Sorry, they were in contact, that did not work out.
Okay, fair. So there may be still room for that. I don't know if you all are still thinking about that or have the bandwidth to approach that again.
I'm gonna leave that until February.
Okay,
Let the new commissioners
fair enough.
take that on.
And I think the point being is I just want to make sure we revisited these things because you did have them on here and they're, the food justice initiatives. I don't think we did anything in our legislative recommendations around food justice. I don't really think it came up as a topic. It's just calling your attention to like, think about that as you go forward if you want to do anything. I think a bigger one was reparations, which is a big and very sensitive topic. We talked about doing something around a public discussion.
And I was supposed to do some, get information I have not.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, what do you want to do with that, knowing that it is in your work plan, as a secondary focus area, but it's an important one. And do you want to still hold space for that or say, maybe it's important that we talk about that at the upcoming annual meeting, just open for discussion to think about like that. Just want to make sure you were.
We'll talk about that. We'll leave it. Let's see where we are December, our regular meeting. In this, last regular meeting in December.
Do we
Okay.
know if other organizations are working on that locally?
I have not heard, and my plan was to go try to talk to someone at Jefferson School to find out if there was any information out there, because they would probably know.
Yeah.
If that was going on, so.
I know the Black Mothers Blooming Initiative that,
Right.
that's kind of meant to be a kind of reparations, the funds are given with.
Say that again?
The Black Mothers Blooming is it's a program where, to be eligible, I think you need to be under 80% AMI.
Okay.
And have a child under 10 and identify as a mother in whatever role that is,
And Black.
and be Black. But it's a $1,000 stipend per month. I don't know, maybe 3 years.
I think
Um,
it's 4
okay.
years. I'll pull it up,
But
I
it's
think it's-
unrestricted funds. So, that's an interesting initiative. But it's also one that, is, I think, aiming to be reparative, so.
It's not, it is front and center,
Mhm.
that it is intended as reparative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is 4 years.
Yeah, that was 4.
So in December, you're proposing to revisit
Yeah.
that as a topic or
Yes,
not necessarily to hold a
no,
public discussion,
Not to hold
well, it's a
public
public
discussion.
discussion amongst
No.
you all.
no, just to get framework on, for whoever's next.
Yeah.
To say, these are the people, the stakeholders to talk to.
Okay.
About that, and then then the next group can take it on.
And I think just for the folks who, who are new, like when we talked about it earlier, it was kind of specifically in the context of Vinegar Hill, right? And, you know, and
Yeah.
whether there was, and it wouldn't have to be limited to that, but that was sort of.
Alright. Anything else?
On the work plan, I don't think so. Lily, do you remember anything else that we were talking about? Just wanted to make sure we didn't miss those things, because it's an interesting layout with all those things up at the top, and then we've been focused on the calendar, so I didn't
Mhm.
scroll up. So, anyway. That's that.
Alright, and I think everything else is in line, right, to what we have to do next,
Yep.
next steps and stuff, okay? Alright, is that right? Everything else is in line and
Yeah.
have been updated, thank you, Lily. Alright.
Are people still here on 12/19? Where
Oh,
would
yeah,
I go?
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah,
Said, where would I go?
yeah,
You're like, I'll be right here in this chair.
I'll be right here in this chair, but I won't be that far away.
Right,
right.
okay.
Why,
Oh, no, I just wanted to ask,
This is
because I
right-
realize
this is
it's
the
hitting up
holidays.
right on the holidays.
It's a holiday. Yeah. I'll be around, 'cause, yeah, we got.
I'll be around too,
we got
but I just want-
we got
yeah.
3 weeks off, so.
Yep.
Enjoy that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. What's next on the agenda? All right, so we have confirmed that we'll be in 11/7.
And it is a special meeting. I received your request as secretary of the commission, and I have affirmed via email in writing that we will publicly notice it as a special meeting.
Got it.
It's election week.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So I might be there, but
you might be there, but you might not be there.
might not be able to be there.
Oh, okay, I
I
got
might
you.
not know what's in
I got you. I got you. We got you. Any new business?
I just wanted to share a little bit. I know we're at time or running late, but I went to the Charlottesville Area Justice Coalition meeting yesterday. I wish Jason were here to also share his perspectives, because he and I were not sitting together at all, so.
Where
But
was that held at?
it was here,
See, okay.
Pearl Island for lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, uh-huh, yep. And it was interesting. You should jump in if you have other thoughts as well, but it was about transitional housing generally. So it was not only about people re-entering from, jail and prison, but also perhaps folks who have gone to rehab and are coming back into society after, as they are getting clean and coming back into society. The key things, and I do not have my notebook, but I don't think, when asked what are the biggest barriers or the biggest challenges, we can all guess it was housing for folks coming back in. And the other thing too was employment. So one of the things that was requested yesterday, I really wish I brought my notebook. One of the things that was requested was that if anybody broadly, but I just wanted to say this out loud to this commission as well as anybody else who might be listening. If anybody knows of employers who are willing to hire people who might have a felony on their record, et cetera, they need additional employers who are part of these programs. So if we know of anybody, that is something that they are very much looking for right now and continue to look for. So I think those were the biggest pieces, but what else would you add? What were other takeaways that you had from yesterday, Shal?
I think maybe the things that I took away might not be relevant.
Well, yes, I have those too.
Yeah,
But
I think you
yeah,
touched
anything
on
else
like the
related
major
to,
things.
yeah. Yeah, so those were, and I sent you also a couple of slides that Shayla was one of the presenters, and that one slide that shows what the services are in town is really interesting, because we can also see the gaps in terms of services and what that looks like, particularly with regards to housing. So I thought that was really helpful to see on one slide, and I don't want to say distressing, because it is distressing, but something that we all unfortunately are very well aware of. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time and attending that. And bringing back information. Any other new business?
I don't know if it makes sense for us to do anything to like formally thank city council and the city staff, but they've worked really fast to start looking at the pedestrian issues after that pedestrian
yes.
death, and a bunch of went to city council, and there already are barriers up on the road to narrow the road.
wow.
They are taking a look citywide, where speed limits need to be lowered and where other physical adjustments need to be made. And there's a plan, there's some things that need to be purchased, and anyway, there's a plan, and they're moving kind of quickly, and it
Should we?
is an equity issue, and I think it's been handled really.
Should we
really well.
send, with all the other stuff that we're sending, should we construct something and send something to?
I mean, we could
to
put a line in the
council?
letter we're sending and saying, while we're making these asks, we also want to commend city council and
Okay.
staff for their,
Okay.
I think that would.
Can we do something separate so it'd be sooner?
Yeah, I wondered if we should do something separate that's just a
Yeah,
a thank you.
yeah, so we can, so they meet Monday. That's a quick turnaround for us. So let's go. So then they would meet Monday. The next time they would meet would be. Would they meet the 4th, election day? No, that's not, it's Mondays. So can we put something together the following week? Just a email. Construct an email to send it out to them.
What time's their meeting on Monday?
It's like 5:30, 6 o'clock, somewhere in there. Yeah, okay. So we'll do some the following week, so not this week coming up, but the following week, let's try to have something organized to dropping their emails. So this had to be a formal letter, but as far as that's something to city councils, emails, and to our city manager. So
Weirdly,
thank you.
the sidewalk document, the master sidewalk document, is probably the most beautiful equity focused thing I've seen come out of the city. So I don't know if anybody's.
It's sad or?
So it's like all, the sidewalk, remember they came and presented here, like the survey they were doing, and there's all these sidewalks, and they really kind of broke down like how they made decisions about who's using the sidewalk for what.
Yeah,
And yeah, so anyway, it is a lovely document. It brought tears to my eyes. I'm not joking.
Wow.
Well, I guess for someone that rides on a
Right.
on a consistent basis. and
But also
sees-
think about who uses sidewalks, right?
Yeah. oh,
Who's
yeah,
using sidewalks?
yeah.
Who are the people who are getting like to buy food, get to
True,
work,
true.
take their kids, right?
True,
And that was the focus that was used for deciding. It wasn't the loudest neighbors,
right,
right?
gotcha,
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
thank you.
Is, for the sake of the minutes, is anybody in particular volunteering to draft that? Thank you.
I'll start.
Can you send me a link to that?
The sidewalk document?
Yes, do you have it?
I can find it.
You're looking for a good cry.
Yeah, happy
Okay, any more new business? Matters of the public? Do you have anyone in attendance virtually? You can raise your hand. Or phone attendees use *9. Nope. Nope. Okay. Any commissioner, we already had commissioner updates. Are there any more?
I'm not a commissioner, but, but can I have an update? Not that I've taken the floor very much. this
Talked
meeting. She's behind the podium for me.
Yes.
Lauren is here.
Welcome,
I
Lauren.
haven't said anything about you. Yeah, I don't think you all have had the opportunity, you've met Shiloh, but you haven't had the opportunity to meet Lauren, who's our new intake specialist at the Office of Human Rights. Has been here a month and a day,
Yeah, month and a day.
so
Welcome.
we're grateful. Thank you, Lauren. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, that's my update,
Okay, that's sure.
as a not commissioner.
So we have our next steps. We are putting together a letter to city council to thank you for the improved sidewalks after the untimely passing of pedestrian that was hit. We are looking at the letter, making sure we have the letter straight for recommendations to city council. Looking at the letter for right to council. Looking at the case. Make sure we check out the case, so we can be prepared on the 7th to finalize letters, write to council, pass recommendations, and if we need to do a public hearing. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, really.
I agree, but-
Wait, did you talk about the nominations committee?
Mhm.
Did you say that?
Yeah, we'll check
Okay,
it,
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I blinked for a second, yeah.
Good, we got time for that. So we just need to make sure we had that on purview and have people in place. It was my concern with that. So I think we have a lot going on the 7th, so we probably won't do any nominating stuff until after that meeting. Or make any phone calls and stuff like that, okay?
Okay.
I think that's it. And know if all hearts and minds are clear, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See y'all.